during pregnancy in your first year, even if later you get a fantastic diet, your brain and your physical capabilities, they don't adjust. You're, sort of permanently affected. And so, we're working with some great scientists here. We have a lot of the tools of biology have gotten a lot better. So I do think, in the next decade, we'll totally get to the bottom of that. And I'm thrilled to do that. And a lot of the scientists we partner with, including some at ICMR, but lots of institutions around the country, they're also committed to that.
So you work here a lot, and with the foundation, you work around the world, a lot of things. And because of all of this passion and data and this intention to try to help people, you've been pretty accurate in trying to understand trends way before people, like normal people. Let's say you were pretty accurate in so many things, in predicting so many epidemics as well. Is there something that you know which we don't? Like, how do you spot these things way faster?
Well, the biggest change agent in my lifetime has been the miracle of digital, now moving into the AI phase of that digital revolution. So the fact that as a young person, I was programming at age 13, and by, 18, I had my, thousands of hours of really strong feedback about, getting better and being pushed. And so it's a really lucky thing to have such a familiarity with the thing that's going to change the world. And so, I wrote a book called The Road Ahead a long time ago, that talked about, the internet and digital money and video conferencing. And then when I moved into the foundation work, the health work, people in that community understand pandemics. And, so my saying, hey, there's a big risk, and the thing that's going to kill 10 million additional people is likely to be a pandemic. That's commonplace knowledge if you're in the global health community. It's a very small community. But I was just somebody who was listened to stating this. And sadly, most of the people who listened to that prediction listened to it after it came true. Then, what my goal was people to hear that and actually stop it from happening.
That's usually the case, right? Like, people listen to pieces, golden advice pieces and pieces of nuggets way after the time has been passed, right? Because of this, do you fear anything today?
I definitely hope that we shape AI in a positive way. It's such a big impact on, being smarter than humans, that it will change our world a lot. And it's definitely new territory. So I have a list of about 5 things. AI, shaping AI properly is at the top of that list. But, avoiding the next pandemic, avoiding nuclear war, bioterrorism, climate change. It's only about 5 or 6 things that we need to minimize the chance of, and use our additional wealth and insights, against those things.
Do you have any personal fear? What's your biggest fear?
It's not like I'm afraid of heights or planes or fire or anything like that. I hope I'll be sad as my brain gets less capable, which, as I turn 70 this year, I'd be lucky to have 20 years of, being able to learn. Maybe I'll get lucky and get a little bit more. But, that disappoints me because I've had such a amazing time learning things. And I used to think of old people as not, contributing all that much. And now I've had to change my mind about how important old people are.
Do you feel difference?
Like I don't at all. Probably if I took an IQ test, I would do a little bit worse than when I was 25. But, I've accumulated enough knowledge, so wisdom can compensate a little bit for a slight reduction in intelligence. And I do think it's like a muscle that if you're pushing yourself to think and learn, that, you stay, it really helps your capabilities a lot. But yeah, I have a fear that, eventually I'll lose, I won't want to pick up a 500-page book. I'll look at it and go, are you kidding? I'm done with that.
So with age, you have not felt any changes in your brain?
Not really.
Like in terms of slowing? Wow.
No, I don't think so. Whenever you can't remember something, you're like, oh no, now, but, so maybe a tiny bit of that, but then, it's just a little bit because you're looking for it. When I was in my 20s, if I couldn't remember something, I was like, so what?
So is there any change you feel? Because so Bill Gates of 25 and Bill Gates of 70, is there any change that you feel personally?
Well, in my 20s, I chose to focus on one topic from, age 20 to about 31 or 2. I told myself, hey, I love biology and math and all these things, but I want to be the person who's advancing software faster than anyone else. And so I really did narrow my focus, and I didn't, take much time off. And I could stay in the office, 72 hours and then crash. And so my adrenaline was really unique. Now, my understanding of how to manage people, other than myself, wasn't that good. I look back and, I've learned a lot since then. But just my stamina and focus for that period of my life, being kind of a maniac, was the right thing. And my competitors would say, "Oh no, you work too hard," and I'd say, "Yes, I do."
Do you think that's a great advice for every young person who's watching?
Well,
be maniac in your 20s.
It's not for everyone. But if you're in a race, and moving a little bit faster can make a difference, then yes, your 20s, when you have no wife and no children, that's the time to do it.
That's the time to be a little maniac about certain things, right? You also just mentioned that you love learning, which obviously the world knows. But during this conversation also, you just talked about it like a little bit again and again. What are you currently learning? Or what do you want to learn now?
Well, there's a lot going on. AI, just staying on top of that is, I very much enjoy that. And I get to sit and talk with the top people at OpenAI, and I get to play around with things. But then when you think, okay, now what about AI applied to mental health care? Isn't that one of the most exciting things? Yeah. Because, we can never have enough therapists, and even people who aren't, suffering massively, maybe we could help even people with mild symptoms. So, what does this AI companion look like? And, how can that help us? My friend Reid Hoffman just wrote a book called Super Agency that he's got a really good chapter about this. So I'm pushing myself to try and understand, what can we do there and meet the people who are, pushing the boundaries, because I see such potential.
So what would you advise young people to start learning today, and from where? AI itself?
Well, if you have a mathematical mind, not everyone should learn AI. Okay. These tools are going to be available to everyone. And so you ought to be a user of AI. But the underlying stuff, that's a pretty narrow set of people who will have an opportunity to, push on a new training method